Hello, this is Jessica with BnB Books. This month I am participating in, for the very first time, Horror MAYhem, MAYhem Horror, Horror MAYhem, I think, and it is the Decades of Dread. Obviously this is the first time that I'm participating because I can't even say it right, but this is hosted by the Bookish Bryants. And so what I had set aside for myself this month and this season, I kind of lump it in spring, and I was doing very spring books, very outside gardening, lighter books, you know, and after a while you do want to mix it up a bit, and I did throw in some, I read Elisa Jackson Paranoid in there. And so when I saw this Decades of Dread and the Horror MAYhem, I was like, I could go for a little horror in between my gardening books. So I put aside some short stories because really she said, you know, do whatever you want, read horror, but they did specifically say short stories like under 250 pages and try to get like each decade, but I just gathered what I had on my shelves, and so I do have this classic horror tales that I had picked up a while ago, and in it I want to read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. And so some of these I have read that are in here, but that one I haven't, and so I want to read that one. I've got The Complete Poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, and of course I read The Raven, and so I was gonna pick out a couple other ones that Alone, and so that's poetry, so I can read several, or I can pick out what I want from there. This is a book that I had as a child, and there's actually 3 of these in this little collection, and I really want to find all 3 and kind of reunite them. But I did have these as a child, and I recently found this. I think this was in one of my Lori book hauls, but super fun and nostalgic for me to pull these out and read. And so I have this. And then this is also a book that I had from my childhood, and the Monster Book of Monsters, and it's short stories. They alphabetize the monsters, so it starts like with A for aliens and it goes down, but I remember this, A is for aliens, androids, arg. W is for witches, werewolves, and weird. But I remember reading this as a kid, so I'm going to go through and just find some that I want to read. And then I did pull this off of my shelf. It's not under 250 pages, but somewhere I was looking, I think on Goodreads or somewhere, and this was listed as a horror, and I was like, I have that book, and I've been wanting to read it, so I'm hoping to get to it. That's the idea. So that is going to be for my Horror MAYhem, and so I'm very excited. I love Halloween. I love scary. I don't read a ton of horror, more suspense, thriller, mystery type stuff, but I do like a good scary psychological thriller. So I was happy to kind of jump in and just mix it up a bit. So that is for that. And then the other thing that I'm participating for the first time this month is a buddy read, and I'm very excited. I'm doing my buddy read with Nicki, and she is from At My Messy Bookshelves, and the book is Panchinko. So we both had this on our shelves. I noticed it in one of her videos for TBR, and I was like, oh, I have that book, I want to read that book. And so we are doing a buddy read. I'm very excited. We both are really enjoying it so far. We're at chapter 12. And so very, very good book. This is set in 1910 in Korea, and our main character, well, yeah, our main character is Sunji, and she is a young girl that's living with her mother, and they have a boarding house that they rent out the space to these fishermen, these workers that, you know, are there, but they're renting like literally like a sleeping space. It's very tiny, and I think it's about 4 men that sleep in this at night, and then they get up and they go to work, and then there's another group of 4 that sleep during the day and work at night. And so that's a lot, but they have to, in order to be able to pay their rent and to be able to buy food and everything. So but there's a lot going on, and we're really enjoying this, and I'm very excited to see where it's going to go. But also this satisfies that this month is Asian Pacific, what is it called? It's called Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So that was like a happy little coincidence for me that during the month of May, I happened to just, so that was sort of on accident, but yay. And then the other one for the Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, this is a book that I'm reading with my daughter, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. And it's like a folklore. This young girl, Min Lee, her father tells her these stories at night, and she loves the stories, and they're very poor, and the mother is not happy that they're very poor, and she doesn't think that it's good that the father fills her head with these stories. And so Min Lee tries to improve their life. She wants to go out, and she's taking these stories as folklore, as like passed down from generations, and that they're real, that they are actually true stories, or based on truth. And so she goes in search of the man in the moon, and she had bought a fish with a little bit of the money that they do have, and she let the fish go, and this fish, he can talk. And so he tells her, well, since you set me free, I will tell you how to get to the mountain where the man in the moon lives. And so she's going on this journey. And of course, her family, once they realize that she's gone, they're very distraught, and they are trying to find her. The mother is blaming the father for filling her head with these stories, because now she's even like, I didn't think it could get worse, but we've lost our daughter, and now it's gotten worse. So they're on this journey. And so it took a little bit, it took several chapters for my daughter to get into it, but now she's into it. So yeah, so this is another Asian folklore, or another book that fits in that category. So, and these reads are on top of all of the other reads that I had set aside for spring, March, April, and May. And so far I have read like 14 books just in that category of, and they're not all gardening and outside and spring, because I've got some classics worked in there, and some other ones, just like I said, I got tired of reading that, and I grabbed Paranoid from Lisa Jackson. But I'm going to do a separate spring wrap up of all the books, because there's just too many with these ones. But I did want to jump in, just so that I'm participating in sort of as you go and as you read with the Decades of Horror Mayhem month. I don't know why I can't remember that. So I will check in again as I read more horror, and if I do get to the Lovely Bones, which I hope to do, because the other ones are just fun little, I can read them and they're short. So yeah, until next time, I will be reading.